Hello, everybody. We can talk about the forecast, which is from June 30th to July 6th. Like I said last time, I think I said last time, it's like, how do this summer months always go so quick? They just do. January wasn't this fast. No complaints. Well, it's nice. All right. You know what? If you open up your ephemeris for July 30th, well, I have a couple of clients on that day. I'll hide their names. You can see there's nothing, right? If you can see that. No aspects. There are no aspects. The chart's for noontime, that's on the screen, but I just wanted you to see that. What does that tell us? So when there are no aspects or something very minor, like on July 3rd, similar. All we have on July 3rd is the moon opposite Chiron, which I don't even talk about. But the point is what we want to look at is especially when there's nothing like this one for July 30th, for June 30th, you want to look back to the day before and the last aspect that happened that, is still lingering. And that aspect happened to be Mercury opposite Pluto. So while it's a separating aspect, it is something that's we're still feeling on some levels for ourselves throughout the day on Monday, June 30th. And you can see over here, here's a little lesson for you in the aspectarian, and you can see that they are separating by 1 degree. So it says 1s 35. So that means Mercury is a separating aspect by 1 degree in 35 minutes. And that's the measurement in the sky, not clock time. So it just tells us that that's what we're working with for Monday, just an aspect that is separating. And we do have a couple of other aspects, which I will talk about for this week's forecast. But again, look in the aspectarian, and we can see that, first of all, we have Neptune and Saturn coming to make a conjunction. They won't get exact this year. And then we also have, so you can see that right here. See where I'm doing it? Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. And then we also have Venus doing something. Yes, Venus is coming in to make a conjunction to Uranus. And I'm not sure that happens in this forecast. Does it? Does it? Oh, wrong week. It does. I believe it does. And we'll talk about that. Yeah, that's July 4th. So that's what we look at when there's no aspects on a calendar day in that Llewellyn calendar, at least as exact aspects. There's always an applying aspect and there's always separating aspects, meaning they've either already happened or they're about to happen. But we're still feeling it. We're still in the soup, we still understand that there is just energies abound. And if you want to really focus on something, I guess the best thing to focus on as well is like the moon, what sign that moon is in. And the moon happens to be in Virgo all day on June 30th. And so honing in on the details and paying attention to what that looks like. Our emotional response to things should be in a way of honing in on the details. And the way we can distract ourselves if we need an emotional distraction or just to unplug is to just get very earthy and grounded, do some gardening, take a walk in nature, prepare some food, things like that. Just the things that we tend to do, well, we should do and can do every single day. So that's how we use it. Yeah, there you go. Now, I don't have any of the other charts up for today, so let's go grab them. And this first aspect that we're going to talk about, let's see if I can get all of them collected, and there we go. So the first aspect that we do have is not until July 2nd, because I didn't create a chart for July 1st, but on July 1st, we continue with that Virgo moon, right? Because there's a lot of lunar aspects on that day. So we continue to pay attention to what our daily cycles, our daily habits and patterns are about. People are absolutely out of school by now. So, we're trying to find new routines and new patterns for the summer. For us here in the Northern Hemisphere. By 5:16 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon enters Libra. And when the moon enters Libra, we are then honing in on cycles and patterns, what's equilibrium of that, right? Where am I balanced? Where I'm not balanced? Which just kind of actually goes along well with what we just talked about, and the moon in Virgo being so focused on details and patterns and habits. And now that we have that moon entering the sign of Libra, and it will be in the first quarter, like you can see here in that zodiac sign, something super important about this one. It's asking us, have we worked on the balance in our lives? What does that look like, right? Because that's what that moon in Libra is about. It squares the sun in Cancer. That's that first square, that first quarter. It means from this date on July 2nd, we're 1 week away from the new moon that we just had at the time of this recording. We just had it yesterday. And so 1 week away, are you focusing? It's action. It's an action oriented. That means something comes to your attention. First quarter moon, moon square sun creates tension, and we're pushing towards something, right? Gives us that action. It's that action oriented. Now, the big important thing about this, and you folks here in the membership platforms that get to watch this, I post this the last few hours of each week. I do put it out to be free. So it's just part of my marketing. People are asking me about that. They're telling me I'm late, and I'm like, not late if you're a member. It's early if you're a member. So thank you for your support. And yeah, and it's definitely in these day and age, it's good to have your support, and I appreciate you a lot. And if you're not a member, go ahead and join, because I would like that too. So when we have this square, now this is the lunar gestation cycle. I've talked about this with you guys for ages. And it's a long-term cycle. It takes 3 years from new moon, first quarter, full moon, last quarter, back to the new moon is a total of 3 years, so 36 months. Every 9 months, we have the moon in a similar place to like where this one is now. 9 months ago, we had a new moon and it was a solar eclipse. So the new moon solar eclipse on October 2nd, 2024 was at 10 degrees of Libra. And so I want you to look back to that point because this first quarter moon is it's at 11 degrees of Libra. All right. 9 months from today, 9 months from the screen, the chart on the screen, we'll have a full moon at that degree of Libra. So when a new moon, a new moon is a solar eclipse, and then we follow that thread through the lunar gestation cycle, 4 events in a 3-year time period that end at a new moon that is like the start of it all over again. It gives us this opportunity to really focus on something. So this first quarter is always a turning point in the monthly lunar cycle, as well as the lunar gestation cycle. So it's definitely important for you to go back and on that eclipse on October 2nd, what was working for you? What were you focusing on? What was out of balance, or what was just like, this is perfection. I love this. Everything is in balance. I want more of this. So you set new moon intentions around that. Those are the questions and the insights that you're required to understand about your own life. I can't tell you exactly what was going on in your life, but if you were paying attention to this new moon solar eclipse on October 2nd, 2024, if you were paying attention to that and you were making family decisions or relationship decisions, right? Or focusing on what's fair and what's not, working towards potentially like saying you need more grace in a relationship, or you want to understand a relationship better. Any of those things, because the new moon in Libra is going to be about those things, your partnerships, your relationships, fairness, balance, grace, right? Pay attention to what was going on then. What were you initiating? And if you're not into new moon rituals, which you don't have to be, but it's certainly a good thing to pay attention to what is coming on around you and what is going on around you, so you're able to decipher this now, because this first quarter moon, 9 months from that event, is important. It's where we take steps towards the goals we set. 9 months isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. It actually gives us, I like the lunar gestation cycle. It works well because life takes time. we can have 1 week and 1 week and 1 week when we have the monthly lunar phase, and that's good for day-to-day things. But this long-term lunar gestation cycle definitely is a period where we can really work with it. So do that. Next forecast. Let's get back to my ephemeris. Not this one. That one's 2012, 2024. Let's put that away. 2012. What the heck's that about? Shit. All right. The third, no aspects on July 3rd. So there's really no lunar aspects. Again, look at your ephemeris. June 30th, no aspects. July 1st, all lunar aspects. Moon in Virgo, moon in Libra. Talked about that. July 2nd, the only thing we have is that first quarter moon. The Llewellyn book does call it the second quarter. I tend to call it the first quarter, but it's officially the second quarter. I should talk about that. And then on July 3rd, we just still have that Libra moon. So continue to hone in on what you're focusing on. You can see a double yacht. You can see a yod going on this chart here in the sky. And while these two planets, and that's what we're going to talk about next, Venus and Uranus, are at 29, they officially, by math, they are in a quincunx with the moon. However, they're the wrong zodiac sign. Wrong zodiac sign. Because if these are fixed signs and that's a fixed sign, it's actually officially something else. Well, like a square. But today, the square opposition. And it's there. But it's there, and we're feeling the tension of it just for a few hours. This is at 8:45 a.m. So we'll feel it just a little bit for just a little while. And at 8:45 a.m. Eastern time, of course, it's Independence Day here in the U.S. I don't know what we're independent from at this point in time, but, friends maybe. I can make fun. It's my platform. Venus conjunct Uranus. Venus conjunct Uranus is good because and it's in the last degree of Taurus. And so that last degree of Taurus is, what do I love? What do I value? What's important to me? So money, values, sudden shifts in either of those things. Maybe you lose a lot of money just like that. Maybe you gain money just like that. Maybe there is, because that's Venus and Taurus. It's almost always about financial situations, money, and even what we value in that, because that's that Taurus energy too. And having Uranus at that final degree, it will be there again later in months from now when it retrogrades back to 29 degrees. But the point is like we can have breakthroughs or breakdowns. We can have insight, or I don't know what the other word for insight is, but the breakthroughs and the breakdowns can be real important. And, the insight is something that is important. Things can be unpredictable, but liberating. I mean, we just have, I'm sorry to tell you that there's just no way to 100% predict what this is, but this aspect can spark a change that needs to happen, especially around what you love, what you value, your finances, things like that. And it's important. So that happens just before Venus enters Gemini. And here it is a little while later, same day at 11:30, Venus now enters Gemini. And there she is. The moon's moved on, so that quincunx doesn't happen anymore. So you could see that it could give us a little bit of issues. However, it won't last long. You might feel frustrated for 5 minutes and then just figure out how to move on. Or frustrated that Venus-Uranus conjunction brought something into your life and it caused a fair amount of frustration. It happens. That happens, on the daily for some people. Depends on how chaotic your life is. When an aspect like that happens, Venus-Uranus conjunction, depends on the chaos level in your life to begin with, If you're used to chaos and it's just going to happen and you're like, yeah, okay, we'll flow with it. Or it could be too much. Or it can be that you're not accustomed to anything that's chaotic and you have a nice quiet life. And then so when something sudden shows up, it really can spin you out of control. These are all things that can happen with that on July 4th. So, and we're feeling these aspects before then. So even though, like I said, there are no aspects, exact aspects that aren't lunar throughout the week, but and that Venus Uranus conjunction is the first planetary aspect that isn't, a lunar event between the sun and the moon or the moon and something else. It's the one that would feel it throughout the week, even though right now I'm on Friday, July 4th. So just keep that in mind too. Now, Venus in Gemini, I have a Venus, I'm a Venus in Gemini gal, and I am Sun in Gemini. And this is nice because this is just fun. This is curious. This is flirty. This is social. This is playful and interesting. It's mentally engaging. So we have this, it takes about 3 weeks for Venus to move through that zodiac sign. And it's just a great time to explore new friends, new ideas, new finances. These are all Venus quality things, and explore them, play, have fun. And I love this. It's a great way you could earn money through speaking, through talking. If you love doing videos, I enjoy doing the little short videos for YouTube and TikTok and all the other platforms. I appreciate that, and I do that a lot. So I'm already doing a Venus and Gemini thing. But if you have something to say, get on there and do it. Get on there and do it. I would encourage anybody to do it because it's just fun. Yeah, Venus, I think it's August 1st that Venus moves into Cancer. Let me double check. No, it's July 30th, just before midnight here on the East Coast. That's when Venus goes into Cancer. So from July 4th to July 30th, Venus will be in the sign of Gemini. So having fun with that. Now, next is, you can see Neptune is stationary, that black S. Just go to the next chart. All of this is on July 4th, and that's at 5:34 p.m. So it's not a busy week, honestly, which is perfectly fine because there's so many other things that are going on in the world that already have their own momentum. So new aspects that can stir up different things. It's fine that we don't have that right now. I'm fine with it just for a week. We'll look at next week, next time. So Neptune stationary. This one's interesting because Neptune in Aries, it doesn't behave the way we want it to anyways, because Neptune is spiritual and it's flowing and it's, trusting intuition and not being able to see the truth and things like that. And, a lot of people will say that when Neptune does retrograde, and it will go back to 29 degrees of Pisces. I just can't wait till it's done, Pisces, because it just stirs up more smoke and mirrors, right? Well, we're not going to, just be things being hidden from us or from you or, whatever your current life circumstances are. Let's keep it into the personal realm of things. But this Neptune station to retrograde, this can help us to, over the next 4.5 months while it is retrograde, clear the fog a little bit. We get to review what has been going on since Neptune did enter the sign Aries and that kind of a step. And when was that? That was March 30th. So March 30th to October 22nd, Neptune's in Aries. But on this day in front of us, July 4th, Neptune is now officially retrograde. And it will be in Pisces until the end of January after that date, after October 22nd. What does this mean? What does this mean? I know a lot of dates here. I'm sorry about that. This is just a period for reflection, for revising or revisiting or spending time contemplating the changes that and we have gone through since March 30th, since Neptune entered the sign of Aries and what that looks like to us. So if you've been chasing a dream, it gives you an opportunity to hit pause if you like. Well, you should. We all should when retrogrades happen. Gives us a chance to hit pause a little bit so we can evaluate what we've created so far. And especially if you've been working on a dream and we get to see, is it real? Because we're going back over where we've been since March 30th. So we'll do that until through October 22nd. And so that gives us that opportunity for a number of months in one or two categories in your life. It's like your hopes, your dreams. Have I been building on something? Yes, I have. Is it working? You'll get to decipher that and figure that out for yourself and decide if it is worth continuing to go forward with it. It's just, and trust your intuition more than anything. That's going to be one of the bigger things. And with Neptune and Aries too, because again, all of these things, I talked about this in the year ahead forecast that I did way back in November. If you didn't know about that, I do have that forecast out there. Um, and I do it every year in November, the year ahead. And I did some extra stuff on Venus. I mean, no, on Saturn and Neptune and Aries. I've done an extra video on that. And you can just go into my blog on my website and read that. And you can just scroll back on your platform, whichever platform you're on, because it is something I gave membership people as well. And then eventually it went to the public. So those videos are out there if you want to dig deep into that Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries, because I did talk about that a lot in a number of different videos and posts. So staying in touch is a good way to to get all this content when it's relevant, because we're just tying up the loose ends this year with those things. And those are big things. They're important to pay attention to. So I was listening to somebody else talking about, actually, I don't know who it was, and that Neptune and Aries, I believe there are some volcanoes underwater that are starting to bubble up right now. I mean, volcanoes are always erupting around the world. That is not unique. But there's some that are under the ocean that are starting to make a lot of noise and have a lot of seismic activity with them. And that also is Neptune and Aries, because Neptune rules the water and Aries rules fire. So I could just see that happening, where there's just a lot of smoke and fire, right, under the water. Let's go on. Okay. Moving on, July 5th as well, only Scorpio aspects the moon in Scorpio. When the moon is in Scorpio, and it did enter the sign of Scorpio at 5:33 a.m. on July 4th, moving into Saturday, July 5th, which is not the chart on the screen. I don't have a chart for that. I just didn't make one because we basically have the moon in Scorpio on that day. And you can still see here on Sunday, it is also still in Scorpio. And that just means that we're taking things to a deeper level. So to have Neptune stationed to retrograde while the moon's in Scorpio, have Venus shifting signs, have Venus and Uranus conjunct at the end of the end of Taurus while the moon's in Scorpio means that there is something deep afoot, something deep is happening and going on within our lives, that these small changes, these quick aspects I'm talking about today, there's an opportunity for some of us, and some of these things that we're working on, whatever is going on in your life, have a deeper change and a transformative component to it. So that's what happens when the moon's in Scorpio, with no other aspects. Now, on July 6th, we have Venus sextile Saturn at 4:43 in the morning, and then Venus sextile Neptune at 10:47 a.m. So here's the one with, where is it? There it is, Venus in Gemini, sextile Saturn. And this is just a few hours later. There's Venus in Gemini, sextile Neptune. And, it's just a few within a few hours of each other. That Venus and Gemini, once again, like I've already said, it's information, it's socializing, it's playing, it's having fun, right? The sextile is easy because that means as long as it's within the signs they're supposed to be, meaning they're exactly two signs apart. And fire, right, Aries, and air are the yang energy. So that means it's assertive and we want to take some steps. So that's action oriented. Sextiles are pretty easy. They come and go quickly. Sometimes you don't even notice they've come and gone, but it's just take the energy of just those two elements, and they equal one polarity, that yang, that outgoing, that assertive. So Venus in Gemini, communication, information, sextile Saturn can help us to focus on some stability in relationship, in communication, or in finances. It's a real easy aspect, so there's not big stress or any pressure. There really is no pressure here, but it can help you make some long-term plans. Easy to do, easy to do. And when it makes that sextile to Neptune, that also supports us in, I don't know, bringing a little bit of a dream to reality. How can you do that? What does that mean to you? You know, something you've been thinking of or planning and you haven't even put it down on paper. Just at least put it down on paper. Gemini rules writing and information. Neptune is about our hopes and dreams, right? Right? Those inner, that inner belief. And since it's retrograde now, we have a chance to, look and see if something we've been working on, a dream, a hope, like I mentioned a little while ago, if that can come to, is there anything I can do with that to bring that to fruition? That's what we're going to work on with that. So don't deceive. It's not about deceiving ourselves, but it's definitely about chasing our dreams. But if things aren't rooted in reality, the Saturn sextile, then we might have an opportunity here just to let some things go. But you can also use this energy right here to be super creative. I'm going to stop my share, to be super creative as well, especially with writing and journaling. And if you draw, because the Gemini rules the hands, it's about, well, to me, it's writing. I do a lot of handwriting, but I use pencil. I've always used a pencil because I'm a Gemini, because I have to erase things. I want things permanent. Anyways, that's it for this week. And yes, for you guys who are just getting to watch this, the last day of the forecast, yeah, consider joining us either on Patreon, which this is at tier 3 or tier 4, and YouTube. It's level 2 on YouTube. Blessings, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and namaste. Blessings.